20 has joined till now. Mine has joined. In the last class, we have discussed about production of module 5, that is real-time operating system, and IDE for embedded system design. Integrated development environment is IDE. So about that introduction of RTOS, all those things has been done. So we have seen what is an operating system, what are the different goals of an operating system we have, and what are the different functionalities of an operating system. Where does the operating system lie in a particular computer or in any system? Even that we have seen. Next, how the memory management will be taking place by the operating system, process management, file management, secondary storage, input output system management, all those things we have. Means these are the different functionalities. We have seen how these things will be taken care by the operating system with respect to any of the embedded system design or application. So two different types of operating systems, monolithic and microkernel, and these are the two different These are the different how the internal functionality will be there with respect to the monolithic kernel, as you have user space and kernel space. Means all the other than the applications, anything related to the resources, file, storage elements, memory, everything will be taken care by the operating system. But here in case of microkernel, the microkernel will be having set of programs related to operating system. The other functionalities along with the applications will be taken care by the user in the user space. So that is the microkernel. So we have seen. So next we need to start with the types of operating system here. So this is nothing but this operating system can be of two different types, microkernel as monolithic kernel. But these are the two different way in which the operating system will be built. But there are two different types of an operating system which are built according to this microkernel or the monolithic kernel. So those two types of operating system are general purpose operating system and a real time operating system. So general purpose operating system, as the name itself signifies, that the operating system which is designed for any general purpose application is said to be a general purpose operating system. An operating system which is used in design of any real-time application is said to be real-time operating system. Usually any application, whatever the embedded system that you have designing, that can be designed for the general purpose as well as a real-time purpose application. So suppose just an example if I want to give you here. So general purpose and the Takshna, we have a washing machine here or we have an oven here. Okay. So this oven is built using a normal processor or a controller. Suppose if I have some 10 functionalities in this, it can provide you the grilling operation, heating operation, all those things. So it is, suppose let me tell you that it performs about some 10 different operations here. Okay. And I'm using this processor or a controller here. So if I want to run all the applications and if I want to manage more than 2 to 3 resources or more than 2 to 3 applications at the same time, then I'll be using this operating system. Or if there are any sequence of operations which are to be performed by the processor or the controller continuously one after the other, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಗೇನು ಇದಿಲ್ಲ, ಇದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನೋ ರೆಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್. So then in such a case, then you are going to execute the particular application without any operating system. So suppose if you want to manage memory, you want to manage your resources, if you want to manage your applications, you want to manage your data, all those things parallelly, then we need this operating system in that case. So here I have this 10 particular different functionalities which is provided by, means which are the functionalities of this oven. So suppose if I want to enhance this with 2 more new functionalities, okay, then if the processor or the controller is capable of adapting these new different functionalities into it, then that particular operating system which it is supported in the design of this OS is the general purpose operating system. So whatever the services or whatever the computational things or whatever the different functionalities performed by the particular embedded system, if you can enhance it, or if you want you can decrease it, anything if you want you can make the changes in its functionality. It is nothing but that is possible only in a general purpose operating system. And one more thing which I want to tell you is, the whatever the system that you are designing using this GPOS, it should not depend upon the time factor. Suppose if we have 10 applications, you cannot say that all these 10 applications or one of these 10 applications should finish within 1 minute or 2 minutes, like that, which is not deterministic. So general purpose operating system are not deterministic in behavior. Means whatever the applications that you are designing, you cannot say that after giving this input, after processing the input by the operating system or the functional unit of an embedded system, it should give the output within a stipulated amount of time. You cannot guess the processing of that particular input by the system. So there may be certain delays which can be included due to the resources in that. So those delays which are due to the resources may give certain delay with respect to the processing of those data which you are giving as an input. So it is nothing but we cannot determine the output of the particular system in a predefined time. So whenever you want to design an application where it is not depending upon the time, or even if it takes some time and process and gives the output, that doesn't affect the functionality, means that doesn't affect the functionality of the embedded system. In such a case, you can go for general purpose operating system. So that is general purpose operating system. As I told you, there may be delays in the application software. So those delays can give you a slow response, means the output will be delayed here. So some examples here, your normal computer desktop system, and Windows, MS-DOS, Windows XP are certain examples of general purpose operating system. So these general purpose operating systems are used for generally computing the general applications. So next you have real-time operating system. So suppose if you have an embedded system, so suppose if this embedded system is designed for any real-time application. Okay, so this real-time application means whatever the input that you are giving, that should be processed within a predefined amount of time, and I need to give it the output. So there is a deterministic behavior between the input and output of a system here. So ಈಗ ನಾನು ಸಪೋಸ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ it should not take more amount of time. Whatever the resources that you are using inside this embedded system should also be very active, and it should process the data accordingly, and I should get the output of this system. Means within, we can say that for any real time application, if you are using a real time operating system, the output can be expected within a predefined amount of time. Then we can say that this particular operating system is working in its deterministic timing behavior process. So whereas GPOS was not deterministic, it was giving a non-deterministic behavior, whereas this RTOS is a deterministic timing behavior. Means you can expect the output within a predefined amount of time. So, and one more thing, as I told you, whatever the resources which are used in that particular real-time application, all those things should be very active, and it should process the application within a stipulated amount of time. In such a case, all the system resources which are used within this real-time operating system should work within the stipulated. So suppose if I have some 10 resources here, and if all the resources are working parallelly, it is nothing but all these resources should take predefined amount of time for its operation, and it should produce the necessary output for the given input. So no delay will be given with respect to these resources. So whatever the data ನೀವೇನ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀರೋ, all the data will be processed by these resources within the given amount of time, and you'll get the output. So suppose ಈಗ ಏನಾದರೂ ಒಂದು sensor ಇದೆ, if I'm, for example, I'm taking, if the resource here, if one of the resource here, it is a temperature sensor. So what I'm doing is I'm giving a digital input here. So what we'll do is it will sense the analog value of the temperature. Usually the sensor will be giving the values in terms of analog itself, right? So the temperature sensor will sense the temperature value in terms of analog input. What I'm going to do, I have one more resources where I can use any of the communication interface between these two. You have seen different types of communication interfaces, right? Onboard and offboard. So any such communication interface, if it is within the PCB, then we need to use onboard communication. So I'll be using ADC in order to convert that to digital value. And I have one more LCD display where the corresponding temperature value will be displayed here. So here I am using three different resources, 1, 2, and the third one is the LCD display. All these resources, according to the given input, Okay, the temperature will be sensed and it will be converted to digital value and it will be displayed. This is just an example I'm telling here. So this, if I want to get a real time temperature value, then this is what I'm going to do. So all these resources will be working without any delay, and each and every resource will be taking its predefined time to process the data and to send the output. So if I'm using, this is one example where I'm giving the input, the processing of the input will be taken care by the different resources or the different components which are used in an real-time application, and I'll be getting the output. So that is what there are certain policies and rules concerning with respect to the time allocation for the system resources. So it can be this particular operating system can give some 5 seconds for getting the value of temperature. It can give some 5 milliseconds for converting to digital value, some 2 seconds for displaying or it on LCD. This is just means each and every sensor or each and every component or each and every actuator, anything it is, whatever the system resources that you are using within an application of a real time, for all these components you'll be having set of rules and regulations which are to be followed, and these rules and regulations are decided by the real time operating system itself. Just a second. Okay, this real-time operating system decides which application should run in which order and how much time, within how much time it has to execute and give the output. So some of the real-time operating system is Windows CE, QNX, VxWorks, Micro C, OS2, etc. These are some of the real-time operating system examples. So depending upon the type of applications which you want, whether it is working for a general purpose application or a real-time application, we can choose this. So next we'll see what are the different functionalities. As I told you, operating system is also called as kernel. We have seen that in the first and foremost slide. So operating system is also called as a kernel. So RTOS can also be called as real-time kernel. What are the different functionalities? So see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 7 different functionalities of this real-time kernel. We are going to see one after the other. So first we will say, what do you mean by task? What do you mean by process? How the task or the process management is done, and how the task or process scheduling is taking place, how the synchronization when more than one task or process execution will be done, how the error or the exceptions will be handled when there is an execution of task or process, how the memory is allocated for the task or a process, how the interrupts are handled when an interrupt is invoked during the execution of a task or a process, how the task or the process is executed within the stipulated amount of time. So these are the different functionalities which are taken care by the real-time operating system. So first and foremost, we'll see what do you mean by a task and what do you mean by a process. So task andi takshana, task is something, some operation or certain some job or certain set of instructions which is to be done, which is to be executed. So something that has to be that need to be done is said to be a task. So send the information from here, from this part to the other part of the embedded system, that is also a task. Store the information from this particular memory to the other part of a memory, that is also a task. Each and every operation can be categorized as a task. So it is defined as a program in execution, or and the related information maintained by the operating system for a program. So the definition of a task is nothing but some operation which has to be executed or which is executed. That operation can be a program or it can be anything. So we have something called as task control block. Task control block is related to task. Whenever a task has been created, the complete information related to that task will be stored in this TCB. So TCB is used for handling the information corresponding to task. So what does this TCB contains? TCB li ಏನೇನಿರುತ್ತೆ, task ID ಇರುತ್ತೆ, task state ಇರುತ್ತೆ. I'll tell you what are these things in the next slide. Okay, task type and task priority, task context pointer, task memory pointer, task system resource pointer, all those things. So these are the different things related to the task we'll be having inside a task control block. So when this task control block, where this task control block exists, whenever a task has been initiated by the operating system, there will be automatic generation of this TCB with respect to that particular task. So suppose for example, if I have task 1 which is executing, then there will be separate TCB. Once the task has been created, TCB will be created. So suppose if I have two different tasks which is parallelly executing at the same time, then I have two TCBs which will come into picture. So this TCB contains all this information, that is ID, state, all this related to the first task, and this TCB contains the information related to the second task. So as I told you here, task ID contains each and every task which has been created will be having its own identification number. So task ID will be stored in that. Next, task state. So task state is nothing but there are four different states: ready, running, blocked, and completed state. Ready in the sense whenever the task is ready for its execution, it enters to ready state. Whenever the task is running or executing, it goes to running state. Whenever the task has been interrupted, it goes to block state. So these are the different types of stages which we have, that we'll see in the next slides. Task type, whether it is a hard task, hard real time task, or a soft real time task. Hard real time ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ವೇರ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಹಾರ್ಡ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಇಫ್ ಎನಿ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಆಪರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ in terms of a program, then it is said to be soft real time task type. Priority, each and every task will have its own priority, uh, that status will be stored in task priority. Task context pointer, with respect to what is the data that has been, if suppose on task execute ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ at the midpoint what is the data that has been the task has been operated on, what is the status of those data, what is the value of the different registers that you are used in the program, and what is the status of those register until that point, that we'll see in this task context pointer. Next you have task memory pointers. Each and every task will be having data memory, code memory, and stack memory as well. Code memory will be storing the program, data memory will be storing the temporary data which are used while executing the program, and the stack memory is used to store the related temporary values there. So next, task system resources pointer. So suppose if you have any resources related to that particular task, and how the system resources are given access during the execution of those tasks, all those things will be taken care by this task system resource pointers. Each and every task will be having task pointers through which you can identify that particular task, and you have other parameters as well. So next we'll see process. So process is a part of task, means task is a part of process, we can say. So process is a program or a part of a program in execution. So it inherits all the properties of CPU, means whatever the things that there in CPU, data memory, code memory, different components, resources, all those things, all the properties of CPU can be used by the process here. So you can use code memory which contains the program, and you have data memory which contains the status of data. So I can say that similarly as you have task here, these are the different things which are present in a TCB. Similarly, you have, this is the structure of the process, where you have process pointer, process state, process number, process counter, and different set of registers which are used during the execution of the process, and the different blocks of memory or the area of memory which you are using for storing the data or the code during that time. And there are certain set of files which can be accessed for its execution during the process functionality. So this is the structure. So what does the process management do? So it will create a process. Once the process is created, there will be a memory space allocated for the process. Once the memory has been allocated, whatever the code that has been related to the process, that will be loaded into the memory space. It will see what are the resources that has to be connected to that particular program. It will see and it will connect to those resources. Once the process has been initiated, there will be a process control block which will be generated. So once at last, whatever the execution of the process, that will take place, and the process termination of deletion happens. So process को task को जास्ती व्यत्यास ಇಲ್ಲ. Task is a part of a process. Even task, I can say that it is a program. Even process is also a program or a part of a program here. So this is the structure. I told you have three different memories with respect to the process. Stack memory, which is used for storing the temporary data in it. Data memory, which is used for storing the data which are used inside the program. And core memory, which is used for storing the instructions in it. So this is stack memory, data memory, and the core memory. This is the memory organization of a process. I told you there will be different states with respect to task or with respect to process. So suppose just an example here. Whenever a process or a task has been created, I told you there will be a memory which will be allocated for that. Inside that memory, there will be the program or a part of a program related to that particular process or a task which has to be executed there. So now what happens? Once the process has been created, there will be memory allocated to that. Inside that memory, we'll be having the code. So once the code has been stored into the memory, it will go to the next state, which is called as ready state. Okay, so ready state is the state which tells that particular process is ready for its execution. Once it goes into ready state, once it starts executing, we need to give the resources whatever it is necessary for executing that particular process. So it goes into running state, means execution start ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ it goes to running state. So suppose ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು interrupt ಏನಾದ್ರು occur ಆದ್ರೆ, so suppose if there are any chances of occurring any interrupt in the code which you have stored in the memory, from the ready state it comes to running state, and again from running state it goes back to ready state if any interruption has been occurred, or else if any resources which has to be accessed by the process and that particular resource is used by some other process, then it goes to block state where it will be waiting for the resources, and once it get back the resources from the block state, again it comes to ready state and it goes to execution part. So once the complete execution is over, it comes to the last stage, that is complete execution process. The same thing has been explained here. It comes into running state, that is this ready state as of this. So it if there are any resources for which it has to wait, then it goes to block stage, or if any interrupt has been generated, then it goes to the runnable state and it will wait for the interrupt to overcome. Once it has been overcome, it will be rescheduled and it goes to running stage. This is about this part, and here once the resources has been released and you can use that, it goes to the resource ready state. So these are the different state of the processes which you have: ready, blocked, running, and the complete state. So these stages are same for both the task as well as the process. So the same thing I can explain here. The state at which the process is created is said to be a created state. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವಿಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು process create ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ memory create ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, where we can store the program. So this is called as the created state of a process. Next, the operating system recognizes a process in the created state, but no resources are allocated to the process. It create agide program idral store agide, but none of the resources will be allocated here. Once it goes to ready state, then only the resources will be allocated. The state when the process is inserted into the memory and awaiting for the processor time for its execution is called as ready state. And whatever the process will goes for ready state will be stored in the ready list here. Once it has been it comes into the ready state, the next state is the running state. During this running state, it sees whatever the resources, whether for that particular process execution, whether all the resources has been uh, gi- given an access to that particular process. So if it is not given, then it goes to block state, or which is also called as the wait state. So refers to a state where running process is temporarily suspended from execution and does not have immediate access to the resources. So that block state can be due to many conditions. It can enter to waiting stage as there are no access to the shared resources here, or it can, there may be a generation of interrupt, or there may be a certain delay with respect to the input which we are giving. With respect to any of the conditions, only two conditions we have mentioned here. With respect to any of these conditions, we can go, the process can go to the block state or the wait state. So once the complete execution of the program or process or task is done, it goes to the complete state, completed state. So that is with respect to process. So there are different things that will be taking place. Just a second. Okay. So now I had explained you what do you mean by task, what do you mean by process. Task is nothing but a job or an operation which has to be done, or it can also be told as a program which has to be executed. Process is also a task. It is also a part of a program which has to be executed. So these are the now we have a clear idea about what do you mean by task and what do you mean by a process. Now we'll see the different functionalities. What is task process management, how it is scheduling, how they are synchronized, how the interrupts are handled, how the memory management will be done. All those things we are going to see now. The first one is task process management. So we have seen all these things. So this, from here the functionality of the operating, the real-time kernel starts. That is, first one is task or the process management. So as you know, TCB is task control block, which is used for having the complete information related to the task that has been created. What will be the content? It will contain the task ID, the task priority, then the task state, type, all these things will be there in the TCB related to that particular task. Similarly, for process, you have PCB, process control block. As you have for task TCB, for process, you'll be having PCB. Okay, so allocation or termination of task is done by this task control block. How to allocate the particular task, how to terminate the task, the complete operation will be depending upon this. Control will be control of this task will be done, taken care by this TCB. So creates, whenever, how the TCB will be created, operating system creates a TCB for a task when a task has been creating or created. The TCB will be deleted once the task is deleted. You can read the TCB to get the status of task. You can update and modify the TCB accordingly, and you can change the priority of the task as well by changing the task priority point of a TCB. So if this particular bit is 1, then it is nothing but that particular task has high priority. So if you have n task, and if you are changing the task priority status of the TCB of that particular task, you can change the priority of that particular task, and accordingly you can make the task execution. So what is the things that is taken care by the task or process management? So once the task has been generated, TCB will be created. So we'll set up a memory space for the task, wherein into that memory space we'll be loading the set of code or the program related to that particular task, and we will give what are the different system resources that it is asking. We'll allocate all the system resources for that particular task, and the task operation will take place then the task, once the task operation is done, it will be the completion process is called as the task termination process. So this task termination process will be taking place. After that, once the task operation is completed, if you don't want that task, you can delete the particular task by using delete TCB operation, that is delete task control block. The first one was that task process management. So suppose if you have n number of tasks, so just an example I can say you here. ಈಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು task ಇದೆ, you have the second task and you have the third task. So for first task, second task and third task. So whenever a task has been created, there will be a task control block created with respect to each and every task. So let me consider it as TCB1, TCB2 and TCB3. So once TCB has been created, in the sense a memory will be allocated for this task. Whatever the program that you have here with respect to this task will be stored in that memory. So suppose if you want some system resources which has to be used by this particular TCB, this part of the memory code which I have stored in the memory, I need this particular. So the memory resource has been used by this, and I can use some sensor. The sensor input is given, the sensor value, the output of a sensor is given as an input for a program. So this is the second resources. And the actuator output of something, actuator are nothing but the output devices, as I told you. Okay, the actuator output is given as an input for the program here. So all this are considered as a system resources. So once the memory has been allocated, we'll see all the system resources to be accessed by the particular task which has been created. It utilizes the data, it completes the execution of this program, and it completes and it will come out of the task, means the complete operation will be done. Once the complete operation is done, the termination of the task will be taken care by the real-time kernel. It goes for the second one. So suppose if you have all the three tasks, and if I want the task 3 to be executed first. So I told you with respect to each and every task, I'll be having a TCB. Inside TCB, I have a task pointer. If this particular task pointer or task priority, if it is equal to 1, and if I'm making this particular task priority as 0, then this will be executed first. After that, I can make the changes with respect to the other things. I can make this as 1 if I want this to be executed first, or else this as 1, this has to be executed first. Accordingly, I'll make the changes with respect to task priority, and I'll make the other task to be executed. So this is about the task management. So next we'll see, just a second, I'll erase these things. So with the same thing, I'll explain. 1 second. So the next is task or the process scheduling. How the different tasks, if you have 3 different tasks, how the scheduling of these tasks will be done. So how the schedule means, how I can say the operating system should schedule the execution of this task, then it should go for the third one, then it should come back for the second one. So there will be series of scheduling instructions given by the operating system, that is a real-time kernel, for the different tasks that has to be executed. So how it is going to be taking place? It will be taking place according to the scheduler instruction. So scheduler instruction is nothing but an algorithm which will be implemented by the kernel itself. So that kernel will see which particular task has to be executed completely and efficiently with complete utilization of the resources within the stipulated amount of time. ಈಗ ಸಪೋಸ್ ನನಗೆ ಈ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಏನಾದರೂ 1 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್, ಈ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಏನಾದರೂ 5 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ 10 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದೆ, ಇದೇನಾದರೂ 3 ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ ಶೆಡ್ಯೂಲರ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ, first it will execute, it will see the complete time taken for creation of TCB, management of TCB, resource allocated for the TCB and execution of the task. So if all those things are taking place within 3 seconds, then what it will do, first it will execute this. Once it has been completed, then it will go for the first task as it is taking 5 seconds. After it takes 5 seconds, then it go for 10 seconds. So one after the other, depending upon the algorithm, for efficient utilization of the different tasks or the different processes, the scheduler algorithm will work accordingly, and such that the complete operations or complete execution of all the tasks will be done within a predefined deterministic manner. Okay. And it also deals with different resources, or the sharing of different resources, or sharing of CPU with the other task or the process. So suppose if I have the resource here, so this resource is used by this task as well as this task. Okay, then what it will do, first first the scheduler has given to execute this task, right? So first this resource will be allocated for the third task. Once the complete execution of the third task is over, this resource will be deallocated, and it from this task 3, and it will be allocated to task 1, and this information will be shared to task 1. So this resource sharing it is also taken care by this scheduling operation, or it can means how it can also be taken care by this synchronization. When more than one process is sharing the same resource, then how to give the different access to different to give the share one second how to give the different access for different task operations will be taken care by this task or process synchronization. So see here, deals with synchronizing the concurrent access of a resource which is shared across multiple tasks, or communication between the various tasks. So that is task or process synchronization. So next you have error or exception handling. So suppose, let me consider the same thing, task 1. Okay, if it is executing certain program which is stored in that, in between the execution, if an interrupt has been occurred, so that interrupt which has been occurred can be of two different reasons. That interrupt can be occurred due to the task program which has been stored, or it can be due to the kernel, means the operating system will only give certain interrupt during that. So the interrupt can be generated by the task itself, or it can be generated by the kernel. So how means what are the type of interrupts that can be generated? It can be due to the insufficient memory which is allocated for the task, or each and every task, as I told you, there will be certain predefined amount of time if it is operating for a real time operating system or a real time application. If the particular task is not executing within the given amount of time, then the timeout interrupt will be generated. Or a deadlock, I'll tell you, there is a deadlock situation which will be with respect to the kernel. Okay, that is not with respect to the task. Next, bus error. Bus error is nothing but if you want to communicate the data from one end to the other end, or from one component to the other component, it will be transferred through the bus itself. So if there are any error related to the hardware component, then there will be bus error which is generated. Or these are the software programs divided by 0. If any number divided by 0 is an infinite, so in a program, if you have a particular instruction which will divide by 0, then that error, then there will be chances there will be an error which is generated, which is called as divided by 0 or unknown instruction execution. These are the different types of errors or exceptions that will occur in the particular program. So now, errors or exception. What do you mean by error, or what do you mean by exception? Errors are nothing but which can be solved. Exceptions which cannot be solved, just you need to neglect, or you should overcome uh, by itself. So suppose one example, if I have any software interrupt, then if I have a program, in between if there is any interrupt generation, I'll go to ISR routine, I'll execute the ISR routine, and I'll come back to the next instruction, and I'll start executing. Means by executing the ISR routine, I am overcoming the set of error, which means the interrupt which has been occurred. That is called as an error. So suppose here, if the same thing, if any number divided by 0, that is not, means he cannot execute any instructions to overcome that particular interrupt. So then it is said to be an exception. So just you need to overcome that, means just you need to neglect that particular interrupt. For this is called as exception. So for exception, you cannot execute any ISR routine. Just you need to go back for the next execution of the statement. That's it. So deadlock in the sense, suppose if you have a resource here, okay. Next, you have some 4 different tasks or the 4 different processors. So if all the processor are requesting for accessing this only this particular resource. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 different things accessing for the same resource here. Then this particular situation is called as a deadlock situation, okay, where the kernel should come, means the operating system should come into picture. It should see for which particular process this particular resource has to be scheduled. All those things has to be taken care by the kernel. So this deadlock situation is a kernel level exception. And I told you about the normal program level errors which can be executed by the ISR routines. Or you have timeout situations. I told you real-time application, each and every task will be having uh, its own predefined amount of time for its execution. If it is going beyond, if the execution is taking beyond the time limit allocated for that particular task, then this timeout interrupt will be generated. So in order to overcome the timeout interrupt, as we have already seen the watchdog timer. So this watchdog timer will send a reset pulse to the particular process to come out of this timeout situation. So this is about how the errors or exceptions which are handled here. Next, memory management. So whenever a task has been allocated, whenever a task or a process has been allocated, I told you there will be a memory which will be allocated as soon as the task is created, and we'll be storing the program in it. So that memory which you are that memory which is allocated when the task has been created will be depending upon the block based memory allocation system. So there will be set of different blocks of memory, okay. Each and every block of memory will be of fixed size, okay. It is not that this task will be getting higher memory block size or this will be getting lesser memory block size. Whatever the task that will be created will be allocated with a particular memory size, fixed memory size, and these memory will be stored in a queue, okay. First task, this memory block is allocated. For the second task, the next memory block will be allocated, like that. Each and every task will be allocated with a block sized, fixed block sized memory. And that will be dynamic memory, means you can allocate one after the other. ಇದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆದ್ರೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇದು, ಥರ್ಡ್ ಇದು, ಫೋರ್ತ್ ಇದು, ರೈಟ್. Randomly you can allocate accordingly as soon as the task has been created. So here there will be a virtual memory concept as well. Virtual memory concept is explained in the next part of the chapter. So there will, means for efficient utilization of the memory whatever we have, we'll go for this virtual memory concept. So this task TCB or whatever the PCB that has been created by the RTOS or the real-time kernel will follows this virtual memory concept also to utilize the memory in an efficient way. So next, interrupt handling. As I told you, you have 2 different types of interrupts that can be generated while executing a task. One which can be executed by the kernel itself, or the other thing which can be executed by the end user by executing an ISR routine. Okay, so the just a second. Okay, this deals with various type of interrupts. So interrupts provided which are relevant with respect to real time behavior. Okay, so some interrupts which are generated within the system, or some interrupts which are generated outside, from outside the system. Okay, there these interrupts can be of two types: within the system, which are generated, and it can be overcome by executing the ISR routines, is said to be synchronous. The interrupts which are generated from outside the system are said to be asynchronous. So they have synchronous interrupts which are in sync with the currently executing task. As the task is executing in between, if any software interrupt has been generated, and this software interrupt can be overcome by the particular ISR routine, and you can overcome that. So these are the software interrupts. So next you have asynchronous, that is which are generated by the external devices. So if you want to execute, or if you want to overcome this externally generated interrupt, then you want to execute some different part of the interrupt handler ISR routines to overcome this hardware interrupts or asynchronous interrupts here. So for this RTOS, usually it follows nested interrupt architecture for to overcome this asynchronous interrupts. Next you have time management. So until this time management will take here, I told you each and every task will be having its own predefined time for its execution. So how the real time operating system will know whether the given task will be executing within the stipulated amount of time, that it will be taken care by this RTC, real time clock. We have seen this one of the application of RTC in the embedded components module. RTC is used for automatic updation of time and date, right? So by the same RTC, it will be checking for the particular whenever a particular task has been started its execution, it takes the input from real time clock, and it will set the timer that this particular task should complete its execution within 5 seconds, 10 seconds, like that. Once it crosses the limit, an interrupt will be generated by RTC, which is called as timer tick. Okay, this timer tick will intimate the kernel that the particular task or the process has been means could not complete its operation within the stipulated amount of time. And this, as it is a hardware timer circuit, with respect to different hardware timers, these timer intervals can be different, but there will not be much variation. The variation can be in terms of microseconds, that's it. So this is about time management. So we have seen the different functionalities of the real time kernel. So process or time management, task process management, scheduling, synchronization, memory management, exception or errors or exceptions, interrupt handling, time management. So this is about the different functionalities of a real time operating system. So in the next class, we'll see with the what is hard and soft real time system. Next, we will see with threads. So just a second, I'll complete this, only this particular slide. So what do you, how a system is categorized, a hard real-time system or a soft real-time system? So hard real-time system in the sense, whatever the operation that is taken place by the hard real-time system will be within the time behavior. Means ನೀವು ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅದು ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಬರಲೇಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಔಟ್ಪುಟ್ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಲೇಟ್ ಆದರೆ ಇಟ್ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಅದೇರಿಂಗ್ ಟು ದ rules and regulations of this HRTs. Means the RTOs that are strictly adhering to the time constraints of the task, which follows the principle a late answer is always a wrong answer. Means whatever, whether the answer is correct or wrong, it should be executed within the given amount of time. No delay will be expected in case of this hard real time system. One example is airbag system in a car. So this airbag system in a car, it should execute means airbag ಯಾವಾಗ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಏನಾದರೂ ಆಕ್ಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಒನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಂದಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಎ ಲೇಟ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಅಕ್ಸೆಪ್ಟಬಲ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್, ಬಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಶುಡ್ means even if the answer, if whatever you are giving is late, that doesn't matter here. but it should be given within some stipulated amount of time. So in the next class we'll see from threads. So just a second, I'll download the attendance.